Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, buongiorno, buonasera, dzień dobry, dobry wieczór, i jak działa, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Wherever you may be, Jay Slater case again, although rather tangentially as we talk about side issues somewhat. In my last video where I tackled the hand-wringing and faux outrage that comes from some people and goes with the term half-caste, I forgot to mention the Douglers. The Douglers. How could I forget the Douglers? Dougla. Homework assignment of the day on this Monday, August 3rd, is to learn all about the Douglers. Now, the Doodlers are specifically, we're talking about terms that are used to designate specific races or mixes of races. The Doodlers are specifically those who are half Indian and half African descent. So there aren't that many doodlers in the world. They're most common, obviously, where there's a large Indian population, where there's a large African population. So we're talking about Suriname, we're talking about Guyana, and we're talking about Trinidad, three main areas where you'll find a number of doodlers. But even there aren't that many Douglers, as generally the Indian population, the Indian diaspora of Trinidad and Guyana, I don't know about Suriname, tends to live quite separately and apart from those of African descent. That just tends to be the norm. But of course, where there is intermarriage and, where there are mixed couples like that, you will get some Douglers. Now, the reason I mentioned the Douglers is because um, you might think that word is offensive. And the reason you might think that word is offensive, rather like half caste, is because the origin of the word isn't particularly nice to some. It's been pointed out that any term like half caste, where the Latin word castus relates to purity, a half caste is implying that someone that is half caste can't be pure. They can only be half pure. And that in itself is denigrating, it is pejorative and shouldn't be used. Okay, if you want to go into the origins of words, I guess it doesn't sound, for all people out there that know that castus is related to pure and half caste is telling the world that a certain person is only half pure. Okay, if you want to go with etymology, I got it. I got it. But then we have this word dougla, and rather like half caste in many parts of the Caribbean, dougla is used not in any sense to give offense. It's not malicious. It's not targeting anyone. A dougla is a dougla. What's your problem? There are good douglers, there are bad douglers, but dougla in itself is no big deal. And yet, when we go into the Hindu etymology of the word dougla, because it comes from India, it actually means double neck. A being, a creature with two necks, is a dougla. Kind of makes sense because the do part of dougla does sound like duo, doesn't it? Two. And nearly all languages that we speak in the Western world are called Indo-European languages. There are a certain group of words that come originally from the Indian subcontinent. So I'm not surprised that the word dougla has that Hindu origin. I'm not surprised that it, has that sense of being double-headed, two-necked, double-necked, two-necked. Well, that makes a dougla sound like some kind of freak of nature, doesn't it? How could you possibly go around saying dougla and not have douglers absolutely break down in agony and grief and hand-wringing and angst because someone referred to a word that originally in ancient Hindi meant two neck? I mean, there we go. So I did, out of interest, Google the most famous douglers in the world. There are a few. Names I can't say I recognised. Nicki Minaj apparently is a dougla, African and South Asian origin. Didn't know that. Whoever Nicki Minaj is, and someone called Kamala Harris, whoever she is. Apparently, this Kamala person is half of Jamaican origin and half of Indian origin. So she's a dougla. Now, I guess because half caste has got a certain group of AG warriors based in whether it be Seaton, Delaval, whether it be Glasgow, whether it be Hampstead, all wringing their hands in grief. You can't possibly use the term half-caste. And now they've learnt about Dougla. That's double-necked. You can't go around calling anyone Dougla. So I can only imagine the outrage that is now pouring from their pen as they handwrite a note to the embassies of Suriname and Guyana and Trinidad, exhorting these third world countries to get with it and to get woke and to start banning the word Dougla. Yeah, we can imagine, can't we, up in Glasgow? Yeah. Um, I can only say I'm outraged. Outraged at the word Dougla, which apparently means double-necked, and it's used in your country, and I want it banned because it's not the kind of word that one should use. That letter is already being penned as I speak. The wokerati of the UK so outraged that this word Dougla, double-necked, could apply to a certain group of people. I mean, if we're going to be consistent with the half-caste thing, let's go with condemnation of the Douglers, or the term Dougla at least. Our London lovey up in Hampstead. Yeah, I think it's a bad word. I think it should be banned. I'm going to write a long essay about this. I'm in Hampstead, by the way. I used to live in Essex. You'd never guess, would you? Anyway, this word Dougla, I don't like it. I think it should be banned from your country. Yeah, our lovey from Hampstead, the gal from Essex, Essex girl herself, she's penning her outrage to the embassies of Suriname and Trinidad and Guyana as we speak. And we mustn't forget our Geordie lad himself, Thomas Wilson, Dr. Thomas Wilson. He keeps diagnosing all kinds of conditions to all kinds of people. Dr. Thomas Wilson, he too, yeah, our wokester up in the northeast. He doesn't like this Dougla word. He's outraged it could possibly exist, and his little England bubble there has been shaken somewhat. Yeah, well, the lads, yeah, I don't like this phrase. Well, Dougla, who's a Dougla? You shouldn't be using the word Dougla, mate. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. Dougla is not a good word to use. Yeah, yeah. In Geordie land, we don't say that. No, stop using it. Stop using it, Douglas. Um, so there we have our outraged AG community. Now they know that half caste ain't anywhere near as bad as Dougla. They are fuming, absolutely fuming that the good people of some third world countries could use a word like Dougla and be completely unaware that it is a bad word. What I say is these people that claim to be so inclusive maybe should once in their life actually try to be inclusive and say, you know what? Just because it sounds bad to me doesn't mean it sounds bad to everyone. Let me embrace those that use the word dougler and give them the benefit of the doubt that it might be inoffensive to everyone concerned, or to the vast majority concerned at least, and let me butt out of this kind of argument. Anyway, now you know all about the douglers. Let me transition to, got the cap on backwards, so you know it's a bit of a roasting time. Mild roasting day. It's a mild Monday of roasting. But we have to mention El Slugtardo because we've all been expecting, because he is the only one, whether it be the foul play group, the accident group, anyone involved in the Jay Slater case, he is the only one still out there saying and insisting that the whole mention of Stephen Rockes's summons, hearing, and impending trial, yeah, was all put out there on, what was his word, a scamming fake website. He's the only one. The AG in general have said, hey, you know what, this open court data UK site, it doesn't look 100% functional in the sense that there's something a little bit off about it, but the information contained therein looks pretty darn convincing. Even the AG have been dragged along to say, yeah, it does look like Stephen Rockas. Yeah, it does look like Stephen Rockas is in some kind of legal trouble here. Apart from one, his stalwart defender, the man that sees nothing wrong in anything, absolutely anything that Stephen Rockas has ever done wrong, or Ayub Kassim for that matter. Yeah, the great embracer of flooding Wales with drugs. That man, Ivor Loveless, he's still out there saying, yeah, that's a scamming website. It's not true what it's reporting. Well, we have something from Ivor Lovelace today. Do you think it's an apology? Do you think he's stepping back? Do you think he's saying, you know what? I've got a feeling the information on that site is right, that Rockass is in legal trouble. Nope. No mention of that. It's the usual AG trick. If you don't like reality, just turn the other way and pretend it doesn't exist. So what's he pivoted to today? He's pivoted today to the Maruba. Ah, we should have known. As soon as you mentioned boats and El Slugtardo involved with boats, then he's going to comment. Yeah. So let's pretend the whole scamming fake website, which is a perfectly good website, doesn't exist. Right. He's turned from that. He's now focused on the Maruba, saying it's all been debunked. But it hasn't. What has been debunked about the Maruba theory? First of all, there's no Maruba theory. There are Maruba theories. There is just conjecture, speculation that a boat, quite possibly called the Maruba, was involved. We know, I don't think anyone's contested the facts, that the Maruba was, well, not sailing, I was going to say, at rest. It was just off the coast of the Masca Beach, not the Juan Lopez Beach, that very morning when Jay Slater disappeared. Now, could be coincidence, but it's also a valid speculation to say, could that boat be involved in the disappearance of Jay Slater? We're told Jay Slater, by the accident group, he's walking up that hill, he's walking down a ravine somewhere. At that time in the morning, there's a boat waiting just off the shore. I don't see what is so hyper speculative that it could be termed ridiculous by saying, well, maybe he made it to the shore. Maybe he made it on board a boat. Maybe that's why, this is what Jan's Lives View was all about last night, maybe that's why there is no bloody trace of Jay Slater anywhere, because he got on a boat. He was never on Tenerife from that point on. It's all a possibility. We know that the Maruba then went to La Palma, or headed up towards La Palma. I think he went to Gomera, went over to Morocco. So this, Maruba boat seems to be all over the place. Like I said on Jan's Views Live last night, doesn't seem that the owner of the Maruba's out there saying, it's all legitimate and you've got it wrong. The owner of the Maruba seems remarkably silent. But it seems to me that CP, Chris Pennington, it seems to me that Janie 180, it seems to me that Ivor Lovelace, it seems to me that that lot all seem to assume, I don't know why, that this Maruba theory, there is no one theory, but this Maruba theory has all been debunked. In what way? What has been proven wrong? What one aspect of any Maruba theory has been proven wrong? We've got I know we've got a coroner that gave his skewed verdict that Jay Slater died by accident on that morning. So what? That's the verdict of one person. There's many of us that came to a different conclusion. And I would say that some of us are just as well qualified to weigh up the evidence as that fool Adderley that didn't take any notice of anyone that actually had input into where Jay Slater was found. Call me crazy, but for a coroner's inquest, a key ingredient would be the person or the people that found Jay Slater's body. If that person isn't in the inquest, how would you have a clue as to how Jay Slater died? Oh, you're putting together the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, forcing them into place and saying that must be the answer. Why? The Guardia Civil that actually found Jay Slater's body weren't there to say a word. Why? Now, until we hear from the words of the people that actually found Jay Slater, I don't think it's a conclusive inquest at all. There are many reasons why that inquest was flawed. That's why the Sun's Katie Davis said it was a fiasco of an inquest. But as was mentioned on Jan's Views Live last night, there are aspects of this Maruba theory that can't be debunked, have never been debunked, and will never be debunked because there's nothing out there to debunk them. Simple as that. So, for all of you Luggy lovers out there, all of you CP lovers out there, I guess that's Kaz and one or two others maybe. What is it exactly that's being debunked? The presence of the Maruba off the coast of Masca there. No, that was proved. That was proved right. So what's being debunked? I don't know. If anyone in the Axel group can tell me clearly, most clearly, what has been debunked by the idea that possibly Jay left Tenerife on a boat, tell me. Let's leave it there. The Maruba theory alive and well. The Maruba theories alive and well. Nothing's been debunked. But as usual, no one in the AG has the balls to actually talk about this in a live. All they can do is post their shite and nonsense and hope that we buy it. Doesn't matter how many times you repeat the phrase the Maruba theory has been debunked, it doesn't make it true. I don't happen to like the theory, it's too complicated and it introduces elements that are hard to explain. That doesn't mean it's been debunked, not at all. Not at all. All right, let's leave it there. More later. Hasta luego, adios. Hasta la vista. See you next time.